Okay, amberjack over 10 kilo. That doesn't include bait, sir? Just have a good, no, Brody's good jigger. Guys, tonight I'll try and get onto the bigger fish, and bigger fish out here is the hardest part is actually getting them up. It's not actually hooking them; it's getting them to the boat. They fight extremely hard, and where we predominantly fish for kings and amberjack, the bottom's very rough. That's what they like, and it's always a hassle. And I've lost so many over the years. I don't know how many. Sometimes even just like I think last year before we had a session down off Tweed, and we lost 6 jigs in a row and just couldn't get one up. I mean, actually throwing the towel and coming home with that tail between our legs, and that's the problem. So who's been dusted up here off the Gold Coast big time? Okay, a couple of these other good fishermen. The other guys, I don't know what you guys are doing, but you're obviously on the right spot. Okay, who has a boat here that's under 5 metres? Okay, so you gentlemen, and Courtney, I know you've been nearly out to the 50s, mate, haven't you, once?
Yeah.
And we chose the weather on the day.
Yeah, it
has to be, yeah.
Very, very good weather.
So, as I always say in the seminars, please understand, Point Lookout, Tweed Heads, and Byron are nearly all in line, and that's our most eastern point of Australia. So once you get out to 50 fathoms, which is about 85 metres, it's straight Arctic wind, south wind, so the swell changes, the wind changes. But preferably on a day that's something like 5 to 10 knots or 10, 15 maybe, it doesn't get any more, and it's just as calm as it is in close when you go through the seaway. So it depends on the day. If you get current running, which we do get over the next sort of starting probably around about November, there's a bit of current running at the moment, but not as we call strong current. And you get a southerly, it pushes up against the swell and makes it roll over, and it doesn't really start to come into effect until you get out about probably around 80 metres deep. So a lot of people think they're on the 50 fathom reef because they hit 80 metres, but when you're out here, when you're on the 36 fathom reef, which is about 20 k's off the shoreline, you only go to about another 5 or 6 k's, and then you're in 80 metres. But then 80 metres goes for another 15 k's. It doesn't change hardly at all. And sorry, I'm stuck in my mouth. When you get to there, at that point, the current tends to really kick in, and the swell kicks in from the south because of the southerly current or southeast current, and the waves stand up quite high, and so any wind over sort of 12 knots and any current over 2 knots will enhance the waves. Okay, when you get 20 knots of wind against say a 2.5 knot current or 3 knots of current, the tops actually roll over and break, and they might break that high of white water. So a little boat, you're in big trouble. So those days you just don't go out. So there is quite a few charts you can get that teach you about the size of the tidal flow and the current. And actually I just checked before today, this afternoon, and we've had a bit of strong currents. Been running about there last week. It was 2.6 knots. It's quite fast. We had 2 knots at first got there, and then we picked up 2.6. No wind. We're actually drifting that fast south. And then I looked at today, and it's dropped right back. It's only about, I think, 1.2 or 1.3 at the most for the next 3 days or 4 days. So extremely good fishing over the next 2 or 3 days. The problem is you've got westerly now. So westerly becomes your next worst enemy out there because it looks nice here, but once you get further, it's right going along with it as you're going out. But when you turn and look back, it's like, holy crap. So it actually stands up and pushes, it goes against the swell, so it makes the waves stand up again. So you get that same effect from the west heading east. So please understand that in the smaller boats I'm talking about, guys. Boats 5 to 6 metres still can be a big drama. I had 6.8 metre Haines for many years, and it's really high outside the water, and I've had waves dumping that when it's that pressure waves. So always be on your guard, and a lot of time you're backing into the current, or you might have a spot lock motor, and you're facing into whatever it might be, the current or the waves coming behind you. So you have to be really careful in anything backing up. Okay, but a lot of time when we've got a bit of wind, we have to back up because otherwise our line's way out there. But there are things that will eliminate that, which I'll talk about tonight, because innovations in tackles are becoming so good and making it so much easier for us to be able to fish those sort of conditions a lot easier than previous. So we'll come to that in a minute. So that's the safety aspect of it. That's all you need to know about that. Make sure you get safety gear or da-da-da. When you get that far, I do suggest, like, particularly with whales around this time of the year, you should really be careful of whales. Quite a few of our customers actually hit whales, especially in bigger boats. I think, I don't know how they seem to know about little boats, but they seem to get out of the way, but bigger boats, they seem to crash on whales. I don't know what it is, but it's something. But it could damage your boat pretty badly, as you saw that a whale hit guy down in Sydney there recently. Smashed his boats to bits. There's a lot of whales at the moment, especially between that sort of 50 and 70 metre line in the 36s. Heaps. So just be careful of whales, and that's probably about all you need to know. Okay, just fuel-wise too, it's 40k run out to most of your 50 fathom reefs where we get. I will talk about out wider first, okay, then we'll come in closer, guys, okay? So, that's going to be, how many guys here do have boats over 5 metres? Most of you do, so we'll spend most of the time talking about that 190 metre line area. So, I've been jigging here for, I don't know how many years, since the 90s, I guess, with my dad actually, and I've brought Jack up since he was a little boy. He only jigs, he does not use bait much, he jigs. That's my son Jack. My son Liam's the same. Lua doesn't do much jigging, our daughter. She's really young. But anyhow, so when I go fishing, there'll be electric reel fishing in 300 metres, he's still jigging. That's the way he does it. And he doesn't get many to fish up from 300 metres, but he hooks them up, that's for sure. Get a few kingies and stuff. You get kingies at 280 metres, if you guys didn't know that. The ones out there are very fat and very nice to eat because they're very fatty. The body's very different to the ones in a bit closer. As you get kingies in closer, the meat's not as good. So if you get a shallow kingy, so have 9 mile net tweed heads, which we'll talk about the guys, the little boats, that's a really good area to jig, guys. But the flesh is not as good. So it's not too bad this time of year, but when it comes summer, they're quite mushy. Like you caught a dolphin fish, and sometimes you go to fill it, and just like pus comes out. It's similar to that. It's very unusual. Not all the time, but sometimes. It may be a disease that I don't know, but it's a quite unusual feeling. Let's see it happen. But anyhow, so out on the 50 fathom reef, it's 40k run, so you have to make sure you get plenty of fuel. Really important. And as I said, tell the Coast Guard you're going out, just in case you hit a whale, if you go at night time and something happens, and in the dark, sorry, when you arrive there, obviously in daylight, but just be careful of your travelling time. If you've got 2 boats together, is always best. If you've got a mate to go with you, even your 2 smaller boats is better than 1 smaller boat. Okay, and make sure your boats sound, really important too. Okay, gear. So I don't know where to start, but there's 2 types of jig outfits, guys. One is like a fast type jig outfit, which is this type of thing here. Short, quite strong. We're running sort of 80-pound braid on it, very traditional. So it still works extremely good. It worked 20 years ago and it still works now as good as can be. The problem with this one is it'll tire you out pretty quick. For those of you who have big jigging session, you'll understand that it's very adrenaline kick-in type of fishing. So you'll start off, you'll be enthusiastic, you get there the first thing in the morning, drop straight down, you're going hard, nothing. Drop back down again, you're going hard, and after about 4 or 5 goes, it's like, okay, you drop down. And then if you don't get that fish, it becomes quite quickly, I don't want to do this anymore, sort of thing, you know? Or I'll do something different, maybe I'll try bait. But it's because you're not positioning yourself on the school of fish is probably the first problem that you're facing. You need to understand where to jig. And a lot of people I talk to have been getting a lot of snapper and pearl is while they're jigging, but obviously they take all these jigs, and they even take like long jigs like most guys are saying, but you're in the wrong spot probably. And sometimes the kingies and amberjack may not bite, or they may be full of bait, like sometimes we go marlin fishing, they just don't bite. It's bait everywhere, but they're full, they don't want to know about it. Those days you can't do much about it, but you need to know what you're jigging on to get the fish to strike. So getting back to this outfit, when the fish are on and you drop down and you jig it and you get that hit and you miss it and you go hard, and so they whack, they hit it, it's like you just get this new lease of life. And then you can do that for maybe 10 fish or half a dozen fish, and then you just cark it. But in the interim, it's such a buzz. It's what we're all here for tonight, you know. And it's a lucky dip. It's like when you're flatter fishing, whatever. Every drop you don't know if it's going to be that big or it's going to be a 30 kilo one. And generally speaking, and the guys in here that jig quite well will know that a lot of the time it's like if you hook, say, 5 fish, at least 1 or 2 of those are going to be like horses. You probably won't get one of them up, and one you might get up, which might be a big fellow. Big fellow took like 15 kilo plus, and the monster one's like 30 kilo plus. How many people here caught 30 kilo amberjacks or kingies? I know Brody has. I was there the day he caught one. So my biggest one I caught on fishing out on the 50 fathom reef is 37 kilo. That's an amberjack. I've got a picture downstairs of it. On a little outfit similar to that, on 2000 actually. Oh, it's downstairs actually. Stewie's doing it because you purchased it. You bought my reel. But when you do hook one of those bigger fish, and say I was only using 50 pound a day, because those days we didn't have thin lines. That's what I'm going to get to in a minute. But you need to know that if you've got a bit of current and you look at your sound real quick, you need to know on your plotter where it's safe to fight that fish, if that makes sense. If you've got rough ground coming up in front of you, you're pretty well going to be gone. It's unfortunate, no matter how good your outfit is, Stella, Saltiga, doesn't matter, they're going to brick you. They're just tough. Simple as that. That's like the day we had down Tweed Heads. When you're fishing down at the, is anyone fish down at Deep Southern at all before Tweed Heads? Anyone fish down there? No? It's just, it's carnage. It's very rough. And they're really big fish there, but it's such a great place to lose gear and feel the buzz of a big fish on your line. But it's on your marks too, guys. We'll go through it a bit later. But if you look at your GPS and you know, okay, I've got the rough reef there, and you see it, you've just gone past the last X you got on your plotter, and you know the rest is sand, that's when you got a chance, and that's how I got my big one at that time. And I've got other ones, it's around 20-something kilo in that same scenario. But when I'm in the bad area, it's really hard to get one up. And I think a lot of the time, with the lighter gear, we're all now changing to the slow pitch type stuff, or even fast jigging, but with lighter braids. If you don't give them as much hurt, that's how you get a big fish up. You don't give it as much as you want to give it. So that type of outfit, or whatever type of outfit you might have, people tend to crank their drag right up, so you can't give them anything. And as soon as they hook up, they just hold on and hold on and hold on. It's really peeing off the fish that's getting tugged down the bottom there. And he's going to give it back to you, right? But if you sort of just lean into it a little bit, if you see the Japanese guys on TV all the time, and the Asian guys that do a lot of jigging, they use a very slow pitch type stuff, and they're actually just pulling with the reel, and the rod just stands, it doesn't do anything. So they don't give it any hurt much at all, and the fish will come up. Once you get them up a certain distance, then you actually take control then. They might go back down a little bit, but you've got to get all the way back down there. So if you want to crank the drag up a bit, you might pee them off, and they might go back down again. But you need to not be as aggressive as you probably would think you should be. Okay? Just try it next time. I know it's like, lose this fish because Doug told me to do this, but you shouldn't. You should actually turn it and get it. It's a bit of a, do I or don't I? But try it. I was out fishing this morning, my mate took a mate of mine out, and Ray, he's a really nice guy, he's my neighbour, and he's just up here for a couple of days, so took him for a quick fish for snapper, and he hadn't been fishing for a while, and he hooked a really big snapper. And he did what I'm telling you what he should do, he actually dragged too light by accident. But the trouble was, when he tightened it up, it was already close to the bottom, I think it had gone down, and then when he tightened it up, it really ignored it, and it just went hard and straight into the reef and bricked him. Maybe if you'd have left the drag a bit looser, you might have got actually not that off the bottom, I've got it up a bit, So it's just a little bit of practice. It'll come up to you.
Is it just me that like a few times I've found kingies, I always find sharks at the same time?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a big problem. There's two things about that though, which is really important to note. And one is, if you go hard on a fish, the fish, I don't have to emit another signal that they're panicking, right? And the sharks come in quicker. If you take it easier on a fish, you will, even people say, get the fish in fast for the sharks get it. We do that when we go reef fishing because we stress. But the sharks there, they know, But generally speaking out here, if you don't go as hard on the fish, you'll have less shark problems, I believe. if that answers your question. Yeah, just try it, mate. It's something that, yeah, again, Doug said take it easy because the shark can scratch your fish and swims on. But over the years, we've tried different things. And back in, say, the 90s, as fish my dad, tiger sharks were a big drama. And out in the 50s, that was like a common thing. If you hook something big as, there'd be tigers behind your boat, like 2 or 3 10-foot tiger sharks. And they just eat everything. But they waited, they let the sharks up north, they'd know what's coming. Hi, Stewie. Thanks, mate. This is the outfit I was talking about before. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, mate, yeah. So, thanks a lot, Stuart, for doing that. See you tomorrow, mate. Thank you. So, this is like the outfit I got that big fish on that time, but my rod was a little bit shorter. This is actually a brand new rod that's come out. So, but you can get, if you've got quality gear, you'll get big fish on little reels. It doesn't have to be a big reel.
What kind of drag are you fishing on that?
Okay, it depends on if you want to give the fish a hard time or not. But generally speaking, around about 6 kilo, which is a fair bit of drag.
Yeah, that's the gentle drag, yeah?
Gentle / give it a little bit of pull, come this way, sort of thing. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
but
6 kilos.
yeah, but guys will sit there and tighten the drag up to like 15 or 15 plus kilos, and just hang on to it, and just the rod's shaking. You're not doing anything, but it's really annoying them, and I think it's better if you just give them a little bit of drag,
Yeah.
especially around structure. If you're out in the sand, you can give them as much as you want because they can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just sand.
So
Um,
around 6 to 8 kilo would be enough to get a big fish up.
If you're around structure, I believe, because I believe in fishing the opposite way. So I don't like to fish heavy drag around structure,
Yeah.
but a lot of people like to hang on to it and just hope they can turn it. It's 50-50 chance. You're going to turn it, or it's going to snap or break you or whatever,
Yeah.
and or the shark's going to come in. I don't know. But just the way I do it, it's just the way I do it. It seems to be working for me over the last few years. Yeah, that's right. Well, and it's a lot easier to fish 5 kilo than 10 or
Yeah.
15 kilo drag. People do say to me, "Oh, that reel hasn't got 20 kilos of drag on a bite," you know. I don't know if you guys ever fished 20 kilos. Anyone ever fished up the reef for big GTs and stuff like that? Like, you'll know what I mean. If you ever hook up a big GT or a doggy or whatever, jigging or whatever, and we when we were over at Vanuatu one time, we were fishing like 20 kilos of drag on Stellas when the new silver model came out quite a few years ago, or blue one, I can't remember which one it was. And at 20 kilos of drag, when you're jigging, it's scary because when you hook up, if you don't hang on, the rod's going to get ripped out of your hand. Or secondly, you got nowhere to go but slammed up against the back of the transom or stay on the side of the boat, and you think, I'm going to lose this rod. I can't hang on to it any longer. You know, it's that bad. So you definitely don't need anything more than probably 15 kilos of drag. 18 kilos of drag, as I said, that's a really hard set drag. 20 kilos of drag is just ridiculous, and 20 plus is crazy. But if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe you can do it or something, I don't know. But it's a little bit hard, yeah, it's quite hard.
What reel is that was on that rod?
That's a little, that's the new Oshia 2000. Yeah, that's such a beautiful reel. And there's a 4000, they've got a bigger brother, which is that one there, which I'll talk about a bit later. That's the bigger brother, yeah, which is a beautiful reel too. Like a lot of people say, do I use star drag or do I use lever drag? That's up to you, it's what you're used to, I think. I think star drag have a little bit more area to play with in before it builds up, where lever drag is quite aggressive. So you need to know your limit on the lever drag, because if you crank up too hard, you might either lose the rod out of your hand or snap it. Or if you have it pull back just a little bit too far, it can overrun and get knotted up and snap anyhow. Okay, so be careful. But if you're used to using lever drags, they're very good. We still do sell more spin reels than overheads with jigging, but it has turned, like, go back 15 years ago when jigging really started kicking in Australia or Gold Coast. It was all spin and maybe Trinidad 16s and 40s in the Shimano range and a couple of Saltigas, and the overheads used to sell, but it was like 1 in 50 guys or 100 guys that buy an overhead. Now it's probably about 40-60 or 50, nearly 50-50. So we still sell a bit more spin gear. The other thing too is in spin gear you have a large range of options of sizing that you can use, where overheads you have more or less that little reel and a bit bigger reel. There's not much in between. It's go wider. They don't go much that way changing. in size. But the capacity is what you need to understand, and your jig size. So that's what I was going to get to. Really important to understand this too. So in braids, everyone talks about what size outfit do I need to fit that much braid, and what size jig do I use for that size line. It's not about the strength of the line, it's about the diameter of the line. It's really important to understand that. And obviously, the dearer you pay, the better quality you get. Okay. Some of the braids though do break. They might say 58 pound or 60 pound, but they break at maybe 45 or 50. They're the really thin ones. At a straight pull, they probably don't, but at a knot they will break under. Where the other ones that are a bit thicker might say 50 pound, they can probably break at 55. So please understand that too. But what I want to show you, so example, if I'm going to go jigging for Kingfish or Amberjack or whatever, and I was going to use a lighter outfit like this, I don't know what strip up here, 4 on you do? 3, yeah, please, 3 is perfect. So 3 or 4 is what I'd run on there. And this is actually O'Shea braid, which is probably the thinnest braid in the world, or nearly one of the thinnest in the world. This company that makes this braid for Shimano makes about 10 other brands, and probably 5 of those are super. You all guys know the brand names, I won't say who it is. But they make it for everyone, but they have different qualities of braid. So, and the difference in price between a good braid and a really good braid is probably around about 50% dearer, but it saves you a lot of pain and it allows you to use smaller jigs and fish lighter everything.
What sort of lifespan do you give the braid?
About, if it's reasonable quality and it's not in the sun, around about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. Yeah, you may need to take the top 10 metres off or 20 metres off, but generally speaking, it will last you a long time. So you get a bit frayed, a little bit frayed as well, but a little bit discoloured on the top. Just strip that off. Because we get guys bring the reels in all the time, and they say, "Oh, my braid's stuffed. I need new braid. Can you change it?" And we'll just take like 10 metres off, and it's like brand new again. But I just put it on for him. But that's what he wants. We'll keep it for ourselves. No, just joking. But it's important to understand the thickness of braid. So what I want to show you before I get to how you use this rod is thickness of braid. So brand X, I won't show on TV there. So brand X, this is 30 pounds, and it's so efficient, light, for the guys with the smaller boats, or you guys with bigger boats, doesn't matter. If you're fishing around that sort of sub 50 metres, 30 to 50 pound, like 50 pounds heavy. 30 is really nice to use. You can use small 80 to 130 gram jigs on it. You can use a lot of the Canis type jigs, octo jigs and stuff like that, and do it right. You can still jig fast, because you can get long jigs in very small sizes now, that are 80 grams or 40 grams. But you can go the next level. So because that's 30 pound and the diameter is in thickness 0.29, so 0.29 of a millimetre, okay? That's 30 pound. If I grab, use 30 pound actually, 0.29, okay, this is 0.28, which is slightly thinner in that brand that we said before, and it's 73 pounds. So do you see what I'm saying? So with this one here, I can use those same little jigs out deep water and get down the same as I would with that 30 pound, but I'm using 70 or 80 pound. Does that make sense? So it's a lot easier on you, and you can downscale your outfit and have a lot more fun. These things have got power on their back side, so you can still crank the drag if you want to fish heavy. It's up to you guys, but it allows you to fish a lot more gentleman-like or ladylike without tiring out too much. So you can use a lot smaller jigs. So instead of on that heavier line having to use quite a big jig, around sort of 200 grams to get down out and say 80 metres deep, I'd probably get down with an 80 grammer and do the same scenario. And it's a lot lighter outfit, so it's not quite heavy in your hands and whatever. I just got to scale it a little bit. Okay, 80 pounds probably, it still is one of our biggest sellers for guys that jigging Kings and Amberjacks. It's very popular if you want to just go hard and crank your drag up and do what everyone else does, but I'm trying to tell you to get away from that part, that way. But anyhow, this is 89 pounds, and it's 0.31, which is very thin, okay? And comparing that to, that's 50 pound 0.33. So you can downsize your jig by about probably a third to half for the same fall rate and the same windage and the same everything else, but it's a lot easier on you, okay? And you get a lot more line and reel, and downsize the reel, so it's a lot easier for you. So that's why we're selling a lot more smaller outfits. So instead of selling 20,000 Stellas or 20,000 Saragosas, which Jack still uses, that's why I can afford him at the moment. But guys are now using 8 and 10,000s. So they're getting the same amount of line, they're still getting 400 metres of 70 pound line or 80 pound line, but it's a lot lighter in your hands, a lot nicer to use, and you're getting your jigs down, lighter jigs down the same as you would with old mate next to you with heavy 80 pound braid. Does that make sense? Or 50 pound braid. Yeah. So, and the price, as I said, is a bit dearer though, but it just is so much nicer. So that's your braid thing. And then leader's very important as well. So because it's so thin, you need to understand if you're going to go not so much the poundage, like 70 pound to 80 pound leader, it sounds right, but when you look at it, it's so thin in comparison. And no matter what good knot you do, it's going to maybe slip through because it's too thin. So you need to do a little bimini twist, so it's a small little dobble at the bottom of your really thin braid, and then use that as your line around your leader. Hence why we use a lot of wind-on leaders in this scenario, because wind-on leaders you just do a little dobble anyhow, but it's a lot more smoother through your rod. Because when you're dropping your jig down, it's really important to hold the rod at the right angle to get it to flow as fast as it can get down there. It's got to get down as quick as it can, otherwise once you get windage out, and if you don't back up, it's just too hard. You just can't jig line out there. It needs to be pretty vertical next to you to get the best effect. So unless you do good knots, don't do a chunky whatever knot. Make sure it's reasonably slim on your joint of your knot, or use a wind-on leader. Does anyone here not know what a wind-on leader is? Okay, there's one in your bags, I think. So give it a shot. It's 100 pounds. So how many people here don't have a 50 pound or more size outfit in their arsenal of weapons? Okay, I'll see you after the show. Sorry about that. No, but the 100 pound leader I'd use on 50 pound or above. Okay. There is a lighter one there, I think, which is you might have in there around 40 or 60 pounds, something like that. That size I'd use on around 30 pounds, which might suit you, mate, to the job. So we've done the braid, we've done the rods and the reels. We haven't done all the rods and reels, but I think, how many people here fish over 100 metres deep jigging? A couple of you do? Yeah, you're going. Yeah, you will be soon, Greg, don't worry about that. Just to let you know, if you both say around 6 metres, and obviously you're capable of going to 50 fathoms, no problems at all. From 50 fathoms out to say 280 metres is only about, it's like half the distance between 36 and 50 fathoms. It's very close. People don't realise that. And if you've got a jig pearly, say for example, you're only going another 2 k's or 3 k's in like 120 metres. It drops down. Once you get over 100 metres, it just goes like that. That's from the coastline down, and then it goes like that. It's very steep, very quick. And so you don't need to go much further. So that's why for us in our sales and that, people are now, everyone's excited about jigging 200 metres. I know it doesn't sound exciting when it's hard work, it sounds like, but it's extremely good. And so when you do get your outfit, I would suggest if you're both 6 metres or more, to think about maybe you may go a little bit deeper and consider the factor of the length of the line into your scenario. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend much. Like that combo there, we got a special for about $3.99 and it's about 600 retail. But that would fish everything around here. And then the overhead combo, how many people here use toriums or a Seagate or a Saltus or something like that? Yeah, toriums are very popular. So something like that you're looking at around about, similar, around $4.25 for the combo. But that's all you need to do to fish in 300 metres of water. Okay, that's all you need. Or even that one you got there. Yeah, the guys on, I don't know if you guys watch Sammy here. His ski is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sammy, they were jigging out recently in 280 metres, actually jigging right next to us. And that's all they use is 2000s. They were using Venom rods, but that's testing different rods, but that's the reel they're using. Okay? So he's got 400 metres line, so he can fish 200, 300 metres all day long. Yeah, so anyhow, but when you get to the 4000 size, this size here, which I could talk about real quickly, that size there, if you get up to that sort of size, whether it be Shimano or whatever brand it is, the line capacity in that's around about 700 metres of PU5, which is 90, or 89 pounds, which is heaps for out there. It's heaps. A lot of guys are using PU4 and 3 out in the deep water because they're using a little bit smaller reels to get the capacity on. But remember, the retrieve rate's a bit slower. And it's a long time to come up from 300 metres. I know it sounds a long way out, 300 metres, but as I keep saying, it's only not many Ks past the 50s where we're talking about mainly tonight. So, get that around. Sorry about this rod, some guys bound the guys on back to front. But no, it is actually called a spiral type rod. So, have you guys seen that sort of technique before?
Yeah.
So, in theory, a rod lifts better than it pulls, if that makes sense. It pulls better than it lifts, sorry. I'm not sure how it goes. But when the line's over the top, you get more power if it's under. As in, the line is easier to wind on and comes up easier. So the line actually spirals around the rod and the overhead rod becomes the under rod at the top. This is Ocean Legacy's rod, so it's quite a well-known jigging brand in the world. Very high end. Not very high end. It's similar price to the Shimano's, but they are very good. This type of rod here, it shows something else too. This little rod here, it's just the technology coming out is ridiculous. This is like a featherweight. It's so light. This thing's rated PU4, which is 73 pounds. They can use 73 pounds on this little whiting stick. And the jig weight it'll take up to is 500 grams, which is that big bad boy there. So, and there, see how it looks. But remember, it goes through the water column, it actually drops down a bit. Yeah, I'm sorry. Zip tie. I'll try and run this a bit later for you. I'll get Jack to tie it up while we're talking. Yeah, Jack, you can tie that into the end there, mate. Guys, I'm going to show you, I'm trying to do everything at once. I'm going to show you how to tie your own assist hooks a bit later as well, okay? It's something a lot of guys that are crazy in the jigging do. Assist hooks are very expensive. It's because the hooks are generally Japanese hooks of very high quality or Japanese steel. That's why the price is up there. But if you learn to tie your own hooks, it's a bit cheaper. Okay. Jack will do that. Haven't got to this big one yet. We'll come back to that one. But okay, so we've done the line, we've done the rods, we've done the reels. The reels, that's all finished now. Jigs. Okay. There's two types of jigging, and as I said before, one rod's designed for just fast jigging, and one rod's designed for slow jigging. Actually, that's a classic rod, that rod there. Most rods don't tell you this, but that company there does. So they give you a slow pitch weight on the rod, which is generally much heavier, because you're a lot more easier on the rod, giving the rod a bit of a break, so it can allow you to put a lot more weight on it. And a fast, aggressive type jigging is a lot less. So I think on that one there's 500 grams on the slow pitch, and around 340 or 300 on the high fast pitch. So every rod is designed to take different weights, and this is one of my little rods. On this one here, we'll use in slow pitch around about 300 grams on it, and fish it out in say 200 metres deep, and it's a little 5,000 size reel, and it has 300 metres of line in there, but it's enough to get us out in that 220, 240, 260 metres. And then backing up and lines them straight down, but if we get something big on, we're in trouble. But hopefully we do the light drag thing, it works. But on a fast jig, we'll run around about 200, 250 at the 50 fathom reef, say. Because you can make a fast pitch rod still work on slow pitch, it just doesn't do the flicky type thing, okay? But it'll still work on a jig that's that sort of shape, which is a slow pitch jig. Has anyone not used slow pitch jigs before? Okay, so for those of you who haven't used one, how they work is On a fast type jig, they're flat both sides. They're designed to go through the water really fast, and when you jig them and when you drop the rod down, they shoot away. They shoot away really quick, which really pees the fish off because you don't know which way it's going to go, I guess, and they get very annoyed and they get very aggressive and they hit it harder. With a slow pitch jig, every slow pitch jig has an opposite type bevel on the other side to what the one side is. So one side's generally curved, so it slides away like that type of jig, but then all of a sudden it'll flip on its side and it'll flutter down or fall down. And it's at that point that the fish gets annoyed again because it's all of a sudden changes swim action and it hits it. So that's what makes these things work so good. And it doesn't matter what brand it is and what shape it is. As I said, no two sides on a slow pitch jig is the same shape. They're opposite. So it's meant to slide and then flutter. Where the other ones are meant just to slide fast and become aggressive. So on the day, and when we're chasing, we're only talking about Kings and Amberjack, they like the longer jig better. Okay, it's just the way they are. They're a fast fish. They're like a predator of the bottom, as in like marlin and dolphinfish on the surface, you know, or wahoo. So for those of you who have been getting a lot of snapper and pearlies on your jigs, I don't know, some guys are using long jigs, but you're not on the right spot, as I said earlier, which we'll talk about that in a minute. So you need to have, I'm not trying to say you're jigsy, but you need to have a bit of both in your arsenal of weapons, longs and shorts, based upon the size line and the thinness of the line that you're using. So if you can work all that out together, there is no formula, unfortunately. There is no formula, but if I could try and say a formula, I would say if you're using PE line that's rated at the same weight as the line generally is, which is like PE 3 is 30 pound, then I'd probably say you could 2/3 on, no, maybe not two, nearly half that would be the maximum jig weight. Does that make sense? So if you're using PE 5, 250 grams would be the maximum you'd use. If you're using a thin braid, that PE 5 becomes 89 pound. You could probably do nearly the same weight as the PE. So as PE 5 is 500 grams, PE 4 400, PE 3 300, because it's PE 3 is 60 pound, and what I said before, PE 3 30 pound is 150 grams. So between 30 and 60 pounds is a big variance. I can nearly double the jig weight. So if you use that formula, PE in standard braid the same thickness as the PE. PE 3 is 30 pound, PE 4 is 40 pound. Half it is about your maximum jig weight, and the other one is nearly double. Does that make sense? Okay. There's got to be some formula, otherwise you do, what do I buy? You know? So that gives you some idea what jig weight you can use on your jigs as a maximum. As a maximum, you can go a lot less, of course.
Can I ask a question about the rods? What's the difference between a jigging rod and a rod you'd use for soft plastics?
Okay, so a jigging rods are built completely different in the butt, mainly in the butt. So the butt's quite thick, and the walls of the material is very thick. Some even solid carbon butt actually. So although saying that, most of the butts come apart. Thick on the dealer rod, so most of them will pop out like so. Yeah, my rod's broken, but as you all know, it doesn't bend much. It does bend sometimes in your hand, but generally the bend is from here up. So the walls are, even though it's thin like a light rod, the walls are extremely thick compared to a whiting stick or a flathead stick or whatever it might be. The other thing is in the material, they use a lot of cross weave sections. So a lot of the rods these days, you'll see carbon crossed along it. That gives it extremely good flexibility with a lot of power covering, protecting it. Where the old days of just raw carbon, a lot of them used to break because they never had anything to sort of take that stretch and pull, and it would just unravel and break or whatever. These days, most of them have that type of finish. The ones that you don't see that don't have it are generally painted, but underneath they may be that same sort of scenario. I've been to the factories in Japan and watched the test on conveyor belts, and they bend those, especially those Shimano ones, they bend the rod back past the butt before it snaps. You're cringing, and Like, I wouldn't suggest you guys to play at home doing the same thing, but I probably won't get a warranty. But yeah, yeah, it's incredible the technology. Where years ago they wouldn't even get it past 90 degrees and it'd break, you know. Yeah. Although in saying that, a lot of people still break their rods, and the most common thing people break their rods is they'll grab the line off the reel like this, and instead of undoing it here, or putting it in a free spool, they'll try and pull the tip down to bring the line around, something will grab it down, and if that little top part, it can go so far and then it'll snap. And it's a lot different to being of the fish on it. The fish doesn't bend the rod, just that little part, and they bend it all the way through. So please be aware of that. That's where most people break their rods, or that or walking into a room or something. Or closing the windows up on it. Speaking to the guy the other day, I got to tell you real quickly, one of my friends, he's a real funny bugger too. He said he was, had a really bad day fishing, and he changed his clothes, I think it was, this is Johnny, and put down his clothes on the passenger seat, and he had a $100 note he was going to do something, give his mate for fuel or something, but he didn't take it, and it fell out of the pocket, and he had his whole set of rods, like 4 or some rods, sticking out the window of his car, and he going along, and he's driving along, and he sees the $100 notes flapping, and he goes, "Oh shit's going to flap the window," and he just pushed the button, and next minute, and he's done all his rods. Sorry, Johnny. Useless. So I don't mind. John's be back for more rods. But it's a classic when he's telling me. Yeah. But anyhow, so get back to jigs. We've got long jigs. Now we've got short jigs. So in short jigs, they will take. Some days they just want to take short jigs, but it's generally going to speak, and you're going to be using those more for pearlies and snapper and so on. We do catch kings down on short jigs, but long jigs will be 80% more efficient. Okay. There is a crossbreed one though. There's a couple of them out now. This Kenseki jig, which works well on everything. Snapper, jewies, kills the kingies. That one there. It's like a hybrid. So it's shorter. It's a tiny bit fatter, but it's the same technique as the slow pitch jigs. It's beveled, flat on one side and beveled on the other side. I'll pass that around. And they do that. They actually shoot away, and then they'll flutter a bit. And they do work really well on kings because you can work them really fast as well. Okay. So if you want something to try to do a bit of everything, because I don't know if you know this, but there's like the zones in the water column that you need to. Oh, sorry, Jack's done this for us. Okay. So let's hope we don't break the rod. But that's 500 grams, so it's a very light rod, but it's able to take. And in the water, obviously, it's not as aggressive as out of the water, of course. But yeah, so when you're using slow pitch, it's generally just lift up and wind down, whichever way you want to do it. Sorry, lift up and wind down. As you get out in deeper water, we tend to do more of a high rise, but try not to high stick it too much. But the fish out there don't smack it so much like a king in closer, so you go to drop down, you feel it stop on. And if you watch videos, you'll see how it works. Different, which allows you to use a heavier rod. But if I was doing fast jigging, that's going to probably break the rod. And I did say before, I think around 300 grams on the slow, high speed. I'm sorry, it doesn't do it in this one. Sorry, one of these does. It's only new for us to see this, we've never seen it before, but there's some brands that are doing it now. Okay, so this one here, this is the bad binding job. Slow pitch, 300 to 700 grams. Like a 700 grams is, that's 700 grams actually, I think I've got one here. 720. I'll pass that big bad boy around. So that's 720. So imagine that hanging up here, slow pitch doing exactly what we just did then. But in the high speed, it's 150 to 400, so it's nearly halved. So because it's just too aggressive on the rod, the action that you're doing. Okay. They're an expensive brand. I've got customers coming in our shop, and one of my mates, Daniel, I try to tell, he's a really good jigger. Thanks, mate. He's a really good jigger, and thanks, mate. He buys only like high-end jigs, like $80 a pop and $7 a pop, and he loses as many as we lose at $15 a pop. And anyhow, but lately I've got him onto like some of the ones from Samaki, just the rib ones and stuff like that, in slow pitch jigs, and this type of one, the high speed, which are like 1/4 the price of the ones he buys, Japanese ones. And in your jigs, it's up to you guys where you want to spend the money, but you don't need to buy the dearest jigs to work. In saying that, you all have a Japanese jig in your bag, okay? Just to give you a taste. And they're around about $49 retail, and made in Japan. So, but if you put that against your $20 jigs, it probably wouldn't do much better, I don't think. So I'd rather sell you those dearer jigs, but to be honest with you, I do a lot of jigging, and Jack does a lot of jigging, and it doesn't matter that Jack really does it. It's just on the day.
I was going to say, Doug, just on that note, like, you've got a lot of different colours, different profiles.
Yeah.
In Toramis of water, would they see, say, a yellow and brown jig?
Okay, the lighter, the shallower the water, the darker your colour should be, believe it or not.
Okay.
The silhouette's better in the sunlight.
Yeah.
The clear ones tend to get a bit lost in clear water, in shallow water, a bit of sun. So over 60 metres, I tend to go more than Lumo or lighter colours. Pinks, that's actually glows blue, that one there.
Oh,
That's Japanese too, but it glows a really bright blue colour. But in the deeper water, the shallow water, sorry, I've used something that's quite dark.
okay.
Yeah, and a lot of guys, we had a guy today actually, Asian gentlemen, they're really good at jigging, these guys. And his Lacanis jigs, like this type of jig here, under sort of 50 metres, he only uses black. And I hardly sell black because it doesn't look nice. But he said, I can tell you now, it's the best working colour. And since then, it's not sold, a few people got no blacks left, but we've got to order some more next week. But I mean, yeah, it's a way to think. So in the sunlight, you need silhouette.
Yeah.
In the deeper water, you need glow or brightness.
Yeah, that makes
Okay. Yeah.
Do you find you've got to switch the colours while you're jigging at all?
No, not really. It's more the technique. The technique is what catches the fish. The colours probably come second, I think. And yeah. So I've been on. We did a thing. I should do it again one time, but I did a thing with on charter boats years ago with our customers, and we hired the boat for the day to get everyone. I took like 8 people at a time. 6 jig, 2 rested because it's how much the fish. How many fish we caught? Caught like 80 something Kingfish and Amberjacks on the first day we were out there. And after about midday, no one wanted to even go near a rock. It was a full day charter. But on that particular time, we were testing all different jigs, different colours, and the guys that knew that got the rhythm right. It's all about the rhythm, believe it or not, when it's jigging. And when they got it right, it didn't matter what jig they had on. That group of guys was getting nothing. Swap rods around because we'd have different gear to test, and they would change and they'd just start catching them again because they just had the rhythm right. So I think it's more important to get the action right and get, which I'll talk about last. Very important. But getting back to what you're saying, a lot of these ones look like white bands, but it's actually Lumo. It's full Lumo. So most of your jigs have Lumo. They're Lumo bars on there. You know, it's full glow. Yeah. So Lumo's a big thing, and as I always say in deep water fishing, Lumo's fantastic. If you saw Sammy Hiskey when they're jigging in the deep, they were using a jig, something like that scenario there, and they had one of these mustard ink invader octo jigs under it, and they had cyst hooks on the top, and that's got a cyst hooks inside of there too. And before that, they weren't getting much, but as soon as they put this on, the Lumo one, this is a Lumo fellow, every cod and every fish that's flaming that they caught, those bottom cyst hooks, not the top ones, but the bottom ones are in its mouth. So the Lumo is the big important part. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. So you know about jigs, and then octo jigs. I have caught Kings and Amberjacks on octo jigs, and actually the Kauai jigs, which are Japanese made downstairs. I've done extremely well on Kings over the years. But again, I keep coming back to the long styles, the best style. Okay. I ran that, if you're fishing 50 pound, I ran that sort of 200 gram is a really good size. Okay. Unless you're using the real thin stuff. Okay, assist hooks. A lot of people get confused on assist hooks because there's so many different assist hooks. Again, it's all based upon your line and line strength. So if you're using 30-pound braid that breaks at 30 pound, that doesn't sound right, P3 braid that breaks at 30 pound, you could use like something very light that would definitely hook up the fish real easy. Something like that type of thing there. And they're called a light assist. But if you were to put that on that thing there with 80-pound braid, and you get a big mother on there around 20 kilos, it's going to bend out, even with only 8 kilos of dragger. So your hooks have to be based upon the size line and drag that you fish on your reel. Really important, because a lot of guys do lose big fish by not putting on the right hooks. I believe there's never enough assist hooks on a jig. I like to run at least 2 on the top. If I'm slow pitch, I'll put 1 on the bottom. For those of you who jig and say you used like this type of thing here, with the treble on it, right? Okay, and you jig that fast, you would only get probably 1 or 2 lift ups on your fast jigging, and it'll hook up onto the braid. It just hooks up, and you'd have to bring it all the way back to the top, up 100 metres, unhook it, drop it back down again, and then you think next time, how am I going to jig this back and get caught up again? But you do the same again, it gets caught up again. So you eliminate that, you get rid of that, or you slow pitch jig it. If you slow pitch jig it, it will never hook up. It just because it doesn't allow it to go all spacker and out of control when you're doing the fast jigging. So when you're doing slow jigging, it'll just lift up and it'll just fall back away, but it won't hook up on the line. So I don't recommend using trebles, but I will put a assist hook on the bottom. But it'll still catch up if you jig fast on the bottom. So if you get a fast jig, don't run a bottom hook at all. Only run them off the top, and run 2, generally 2 singles or a double assist. Has anyone caught 2 kings at one time on their jigs? I've done it lots of times. It's very popular. It's sort of that size. And when you get 2 on at once, it actually feels weird, but it's not as hard as far as a one fish hook up. Quite weird actually. You think it'd be double the pain, but it's not. It's easier. Yeah, they do. I think they do. Yeah, it's like, oh, I've got 2 fish on here. And it'll happen quite often when they're really schooled up, which we'll talk about in a minute. So keep away from the trebles or the bottom assist unless you're slow pitch jigging. And there's some of that octo jig that they were using. They're only slow pitch jigging, so it just can't foul up ever. Okay.
If we go on to the next, I'm not sure where you're going next, but what about attaching the jig? Do you ever use snap hooks?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. Really good question, Greg. And in your bag, you have a set of split rings and a set of solid ring and a ball bearing swivel. So the proper way to do it is that's your ball bearing swivel. So you put on all of your jigs, so there's a jig here, and on the just be a bit taller. Sorry, different colour. Yeah, for the mouse. Thanks, Jeff. What ball marker is it? This one. Okay, so that's your swivel there, and then attached to this fellow here is your on the top of your assist hook, I should say. So if you put a assist hook that comes with the ring, some come with the ring, some don't. Okay, so it depends which way you're going to buy it. So if it comes with the ring, you have a split ring. Oh, that's not working. I don't know how that. Split ring goes off your main swivel, and the solid ring goes off your split ring. Your assist hooks are attached to the solid ring. Now, a lot of people come in our shop and they say, I need a set of hooks and a set of rings and a set of this for every one of my jigs. I don't mind to sell you that, but you don't need that. You only need one set on your rod and your jigs. Okay? So you just change, you need to get yourself a good split, spend the money to get a good pair of split ring pliers. Something like this type of fellow here, it's a Shimano one that does big rings. A lot of split ring pliers don't do big rings. They look good, but when you go to open it up, they're not strong enough to part it. So Greg, on here, on the top of your assist hooks, that's the ring. you have a split ring on there. And the split ring, so it's solid, split, swivel. And the swivel will eliminate, probably save you a few fish because it can't pivot or whatever it might be in trying to dislodge the hook. If you're running the ring like that and doing your own assist hooks, or you want to put on 2 single assist hooks, always one assist hook on that side, the hook, one assist hook that side, the hook, if you're running 2 singles assist, and your jig on the split ring always goes in the middle. Okay, and your line attaches to that, or if you have a swivel, you need to put it becomes a reverse roll. That's actually got to go up to the top here. Does that make sense?
I'm confused.
Yeah, okay. I need to get another colour. I need third colour. Third colour. Okay, I'll pass this around to give you a bit of idea to understand what I'm talking about. This has got rings on the end of it. This one has. See that? Sorry.
Share one for mine.
This one is, you just get one more. I'll see if I've got a whiteboard pen, please, mate. So this one coming around, you'll see the 2, it's got double assist hook, right? But you'll see that the 2 are separate on the ring, okay? So sometimes you need to put even 2 split rings on. So on this particular one here, you can attach that off to the side of the jig, but to be honest with you, the jig always works better if you've got the hooks hanging off either side of it, if you're running 2 singles. That's that style. This style here has both hooks running off the one ring. They're not separated. They're just 2 on together. This one you don't need to have the second split ring. That's what I'm trying to show you there. So you'll need to have a ring there and a ring there with your solid in between. It sounds a bit stupid, but because you need both hooks to hang either side of it. If you've got that set up there, with the one ring, it just sits right. It sits right all the time. That's my suggestion, is actually do it that way. So the first one coming around, it works, but you need 2 split rings to make it work properly.
So
This one.
effectively what you're saying is, to train, when you want to change jigs, you just use a split ring, take it off.
That's
split
right,
ring, and
100%.
put it on the other jig.
That's right. Just put on the new jig.
That's sort of thing that a snap.
Yeah, sorry, that
We're
you get
saying
that way. Yeah.
That's why I asked
Yeah,
the question.
yeah. So snaps aren't strong enough. Hawaiian snaps maybe be okay, and the quick attach thing on that type of fishing is just not strong enough. You know, the one we just loop it around like that sounds good, is good, not practical though.
Yeah, not strong.
You need to go solid.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose I was partly also thinking with the snap rings,
Thanks,
does it
Jack.
foul up more often?
It probably would too, Greg. Yeah, it probably would that too. Yeah. Okay, yeah, here we go. So, swivel. So this is the ideal scenario. So swivel, and then you got the split ring. So that's the split ring there, and we'll make the solid ring black. So the solid ring's hanging off here, okay, and your assist hook is on that, and your lure is hanging off the split ring as well, okay. Your lure's here, hanging like that, whatever way it is, and then you'll have another solid ring, and the hooks. Always put it on both sides, okay.
That's a separate one.
Separate ones, yeah, that's right.
So you prefer the separate?
I prefer actually, because they seem to be better in the double assist on the one ring, like together. They seem to be better. They don't hang quite as good, but they seem to work really good, Greg. I don't know what it is about it, but sometimes you need to put a split ring on the top of here, separate to that, and run that ring off there to make that work sometimes. It's just, it sounds stupid, but you got split ring, solid ring, and then another split ring up here. I don't like that technique. Some people do that way, but I don't. I just like to do it split ring, solid ring. Split ring with the solid ring on it, but I'm using myself, Jenna. Jeez, hang on. Let me look at it this way. Swivel. You got to have a split ring on a swivel, so the solid ring won't go on it. That's a split ring. and you've attached your solid ring. Yeah, okay, you've attached your solid ring onto the split ring with the assist hook on. That's right. Yeah. And the jigs and all. Yeah. So that's the best way to do it. Yeah. Confused. Yeah. So do it that way. It's simple, but use a good pair of split rings.
Sorry, Doug, and that's the same for the slow pitch and fast pitch?
100%, mate.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. But in slow pitch, you can afford to put another hook on the bottom as long as it's not too reefy.
Yeah.
So remember, you will hook up on the bottom more with the hook on the bottom.
You tend to run like a corded assist off the bottom, or you just go to a split ring and then just a straight like a...
I actually would like to prefer to probably run a split ring and a solid ring on the assist again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the double ender sort of thing.
And
Same,
a
same.
corded assist on the bottom. Or just a hook
Quarter,
straight
no,
on?
quarter assist on the bottom. Yeah, no, I don't like to run it short. I like long assist. I believe the more they're flapping around the joint, the more chance you get to hook up the fish up. I don't like short ones too much. I have done the scenario of running, actually on this type of jig here, I'd run a long one and I'd run a short one. Now that's why I got two lots of fish actually quite often. But most of my fish are on the long one more than the short one. So I believe the long ones are better. And most of these days come in the same length long. Yeah. Some guys still like to use single hooks, but I believe two hooks are better than one on an assist. Do you all want to know how to tie your own assist hooks? You've got time to just, because I've got a fair bit to cover still yet, sorry. But, okay.
Looking at those hooks that you're passing through, they're not just a standard hook. Like
So-
they're flattened on the top. So
Yeah, so that's right. So that's this the way overseas. Most of their hooks are flattened all the time, Chris.
Yeah.
Whether they be catching mullet or deep dropping or whatever, they're all flattened hooks. There's not many countries that use eyes. Australia's very popular for it, but most countries you go like if you go to Japan or China or wherever and buy a fishing hook, there's none of them got eyes. Everything's flat. So their jig hooks just come flat. Yeah, but I will admit, when you do what I'm about to do now, it seems to pull up better on it. But I don't know, you can't do what I'm doing now, but you have to whip finish on flat ones. You can't just thread it through like I'm about to teach you now.
Like
Yeah.
it's like a Snell, but not quite.
It's like a Snell, but not quite. And then it's whipped out the top and then it's glued. And they might add a bit of lumo to it or something like that at the top. But with an eye, you can work so much better with it. So, like, you can buy dress hooks like that type of thing now. Sorry. Or that type of thing there. Now, this is another thing too, guys. Let's open a can of worms now. You can use, and this doesn't sound right, but you can use circle hooks as assist tool. Has anyone ever tried that yet? And how'd you go, mate? Yeah, you got a few fish though? Yeah, and you tried it, you got a few fish? Yeah, so you remember the hooks, a circle hook only works when it's loose, okay? And when you're jigging, that hook's very loose, it's just loose. And when they grab it, they impale themselves. So it works quite well. Most hooks you can buy that are dressed, these ones here are dressed, but they're flat. They're not flat eye, but they're round eye. But they're not circle. But most hooks that you buy to make up your own paternoster rigs, dressed like this material on there, and trust me, that stuff will enhance your bite by heaps. So has anyone not used dressed hooks for jigging? Well, we sell them down there, but we don't sell many. Everyone's learned that the dressed hooks are by far better to use on your jigs, okay? So most of them these days have that little bit of tinsel, even be that size, it helps. You can see it. So circle hooks work too. Okay, all you do, you can grab a bit of this here, and you can cut a piece off it if it's only about 10 pieces cut here, but actually Jack, good job for you, mate. If you don't mind. Sorry, Jack. If you just want to cut pieces about that long, please, mate. About 40 centimetres, 35 centimetres. But all you do, and that guy's down the back, it's a bit hard for you to see. Actually, I'll cut that one. No, that'll be right. Actually, I'll cut that one in half, Jack. It'll only take 3 minutes, but you should learn this, guys. Okay. If you want to catch like little fish, say sub 60 metres, like snapper and stuff like that, and you have braid that's about 80 pounds, you can use the braid because you only catch in light, you're only using light gear, leave light gear outfit now. This is actually 100 pounds, I think. But any old braid, not preferably worn out old, but in this scenario, and use that as your assist stuff. You can also buy, which is the proper stuff, which is Kevlar, like this type of stuff here, which is an assist Kevlar. That's 225 pounds, 100. Obviously, it's made for smaller jigs. It's going to be a lot more loose and light and whatever. But it's very simple to do. So all you do is you just come from the back of the hook, okay? Thread the, let me put my glasses on, sorry folks. Thread the loop through. And there's a lot of different ways of doing this, but this is the way I've always been taught and the way I've done it. And thread it through and leave. Can you see how much is hanging there? It's about probably 30 mil out or something like that, 40 mil out. Now this is dress, so it's not going to pull up as nice as if it was just a plain hook. You can dress it later, and you can buy all this stuff. It's like cheap as like $3.50 or something, you know. Just buy a bit of that and just wrap it around the hook and actually thread it around the hook before I even do this, what I'm doing now. Then even just that will hold it in place pretty well. Chuck a little bit of glue on there if you want, just to hold it in place a bit more. Just cut off a bit of that along. Thread it through, hold it, and you do this knot I'm about to teach you, and then just put a bit of glue on it. But anyhow, we're just going to leave a bit out there like that, and all you do is you just go around this way, like so, and then just so you come back over the top of the hook, like so. You thread it through the loop. You can do one, you can do two. It's up to you guys. Some guys will do two for insurance. I don't know if there's a hold on this. This doesn't normally have that grip on there. And then you go back through. So you've done that, pull it down tight. Go back through the hole from behind again, like you did originally. Through the hook. Pull it up tight like so, and that's it. You can grab a pair of pliers and pull that if you want to, but that's your hook tied on. So from behind, from the back of the hook here, thread the loop part through, pull through, get a little bit sticking out, then go from the back, then pull it through from this way, and then pull it tight, and then go back through the original way you went in again, and pull it through, and it'll just lock in tight. And then that part there goes onto your ring, which I don't have here, a ring, but you just, I do. Make it whatever length you want to make it, of course. So you pre-do that before you actually start doing it. And just go through and pull it through. It's as simple as that. And there's your assist hook done. I'm sorry. And just one thing you need to note is that you need to think about, do I want to use a skirt on it? If you want to put a skirt on it, you got to put the skirt on first before you do this. Why is that not going on there? Sorry, other way around. This way. Make sure when you do it, just like anything, it's got the double's got to be perfectly straight. Don't have one side longer than the other. But that's it, just like so. Look at it. But it's quick and easy, and if you then have to improvise, at least you know how to do it. But just get your mates right and cut a bit of braid off. The strongest one he's got.
Do you find a difference between using the flash and a skirt?
That's okay. So flash and no flash, 100 times better. Flash and skirt, I think skirt's even better again, but with flash in it, it's even the best. Okay, and Lumo skirts preferably. Okay, or dark skirts if you're in close. Okay, in shallow water. You pull them as hard as you want, you won't undo it.
just feels like it's
Not much to it, yeah.
No, it's not much to it. No, it's easy. Anyhow, I'll try and find something online that shows the same technique, and I'll send it out to all you guys. So you can go and play with it, practice it. Okay, I think we've nearly done all the gear. Done the hooks. Oh, last thing is, not so much here, but if you ever go up north, guys, to do, has anyone ever jigged for dogtooth tunes at all? It's like the ultimate. Did you hook one? No.
Well,
Okay.
We talked about it, we didn't stop any.
Okay. Yeah, that's right, exactly right. I have to say the best area I've ever done is in Vanuatu. Incredible fishing over there. It's one of the best fisheries in the world. I fished around a lot of places. Everything has to be wire there because they're just big doggies. And you get the odd one if you're lucky on a normal assist, but you can buy wire assist, okay? Or you do your own wire assist, okay? But when you go dog tooth tuning, you must have wire assist. There's a little extra.
Do you prefer the circle hooks to on the cysts?
No, I don't,
You don't?
but it does work. It's probably a mental thing. I believe that the standard type jig hooks are better. Yeah, but when we've got a little, we have a thing that we do when we go fishing. It doesn't matter if we're bottom fishing bait or we're doing jigging, whatever. Once we've got enough or we've had a time of fun, then we experiment.
Yeah.
And we change techniques and we change jigs and we change maybe that style of hook or whatever it might be, and try and learn. Yeah, but it doesn't always happen. Actually, you don't always get your bag or whatever it might be. You still jig away trying to get one fish, you know. But we have bad days too. Yeah. Okay. I think that's about everything on gear. Is there any questions on anything that I've done so far? No? Okay. Technique. So we've now got all our gear ready. I suggest too, and it's a great idea as we talked about earlier, especially Greg, is understanding that have the assist and the ring and the split ring attached, but not attached to the jig.
Yep.
So it's just sitting in the guide of your rod when you're going out fishing, and when you get out there, then you put the jig on because it's smashed the crap out of your rod all the way out if you leave it on there. You can get little lure wraps, rod wraps that hold the lure in place, but I wouldn't suggest them at all. Okay.
Yeah, no, doesn't work.
No, especially this big bad boy. I must have to lot of that one. Okay, so we've got the hooks on there. I get out there, and you need to know what to look for before I start jigging. So, let's see, just clean this off. I've actually got another board, but I haven't used it yet. This one's about to fall apart. It looks a bit cruddy. That one. This went in the bin, doesn't it? Understanding your sounders. Has everyone worked out their sounders yet? Who's had a problem understanding their sounders? Everyone does.
Getting there slowly.
Okay. Everyone uses different brands. So how many people here have got Lowrance / Simrad? Probably about half here. Okay. Garmin
And also a hummingbird.
and Humbird. Sorry, Greg, I don't own there, buddy. That's all right. Humbird's still a sounder.
It's all right, I can't work it
They're
out.
very good in the upper territory. So understanding your sounders, there's three basic things you need to know. One is understanding your navigation on your plotter side. It's really important when you're fishing. Probably as important as in seeing the fish on the sounder. You need to know your drift and you need to know how to work it all right. And the second thing is understanding what I jig on, should I drop my line down there? So I said it's hard work. And you don't want to go just drop it down nowhere thinking there's maybe fish there and get nothing because it's not going to work. So you need to find the fish. How many people here have two screens on their boats? A few of you do. Oh, you got a nice boat now. Yeah. Brody's got a nice boat. But if you have two screens, then you're set. For most of us, we have a split screen. And we have another little split screen here, which you don't see the split, but it's there. So what I'm getting at is that's 0 to 100 metres, and the bottom's there on 80 metres, say. And we see a bit of this. And what we want to look for is, that's not too bad. What we look for is like a lot of bait, sometimes scattered with the fish around it, or just fish on their own in that scenario. And they're probably about 15 metres off the bottom or 20 metres off the bottom. So that's 80 metres. You're in, say, yes, 82 metres deep on here, wherever it might be. And that's sort of 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, whatever. But on the zoomed up portion of that, which is over here now, we're looking over here, there's that rise there. And we're looking, say, between here and here, okay, in that section. And now the fish will be like that, a lot bigger, and you'll see maybe some good sized fish around it. So those bad boys there are feeding on that bait there. And on the plotter, I always have north facing up. Who does north facing up? You guys are clever fishermen. Who has the chase yourself around the circle thing happening? Okay, I suggest you do get used to north facing up. It just is much better because if you're watching the GPS and trying to work out where you are straight and you're going, but you look at the land and you're not going the way you wanted to maybe go. Does that make sense? Yeah, but north, you always know where the coastline is, and it's just easy, you know that way's north, so you're going to go north. And generally it's always up into the winter floods all this time of the year, so it makes sense. Obviously west over here, east over here, south there. So that mark there is on my screen right about here. Okay, and just prior to that, I had another bit of a bump with a similar rise on it about here. And the wind's blowing from the northwest. So I'm going to sound up, I've just sounded up over that first bump, which you can see on there now. And then I've just gone across that bump there. And I know I'm going to drift at about 1.5 knots. So, and that's set at let's say 300 meters on your plotter. So 300 meters is say that size there. So we've gone now around 600 meters up, and I'm going to turn the boat around, the backside facing the wind. I'm not going to stop with the head in the wind because my lines are going under the boat. It'd be a big tangle and it'd be bad work, and you can't back up. So I'll turn the boat around first, and I'll try and get my trajectory spot on to go back over there, over the top of this. And as the boat starts to go down, I say guys, drop your lines down, we drop our lines down. And this is coming up just here, right? That's one mark and that's one mark there. And that's the boat. And when I get to about here, hopefully our lines will hit the bottom, and we're just about to come through this one here. And what I do, my boat's right about on the mark, and the lines are out a little bit on the angle. If that's the boat there, and we're all standing here, and our lines are on about maybe that angle down, at about probably 30 seconds or a minute prior to hitting the spot, I'll put it in reverse, and I'll reverse back a bit, which will pull me back a bit away from the spot, but that's okay because my lines now are vertical, and I can start jigging on this front edge before I get to the bait. And those fish will come over to your line there. Does that make sense? So, and then when you get to the spot, you're jigging all the way through it. I hope you hooked up fish by this time, but you need your line to be no more of an angle than about that to the bottom, preferably between there and there. Is really important. And if it gets out a bit too far and you either hook or missed it, someone has to be able to drive the boat and jig at the same time. It's as simple as that. Or if you're on your own, you need to do both as well. And when you get past there, and my lines say back at that angle, I'll definitely try and reverse back up to the spot if it's not too hard to reverse back up. Might just be 20 metres away. But sometimes my line will end up going back that side of the boat there, up towards the front of the boat. To reverse back that far, doesn't matter because I'm now stopped there, and I know when I catch up, my line's sort of out there, but by the time I catch up, it's not going to move very far that way, and the fish will come down that side too. So I've got another hit at it one more time. And then hopefully I've got the fish on. By the time I get the fish up, I've hopefully got enough time to get back down before I get to this next spot, which is the next, a lot of fish like that previously we went over. So that's how you do it. Does that make sense? Does everyone understand that? Does everyone do that? You probably do.
Trying to.
Yeah, trying to. There's an art to it. Especially with float line for snapper and stuff like that. And using lighter gear, it's even harder, but there's such an art to it. But you need to know what size jig's going to hold you in that column. If it's not holding you need to up the ante and put a bit heavier weight on.
How do you work out your current and your wind?
You do a blind drift straight up.
Sorry?
You always do what we call a blind drift. You just don't drop your line down for the first drift. and do it preferably not on top of the fish, do it over here somewhere, away so it sounds I'm pinging away or whatever. So you pull up, even over here, so it doesn't matter wherever it is, pull up and just get your gear ready, put your jigs on, drift for at least 3 to 5 minutes and get everything ready. So you're ready to drop, alright? And in that period, you'll see which way you drifted. The wind might be blowing this way, but sometimes you're drifting actually that way, believe it or not. Because the current's that way. So you need, and if you didn't do that first, you think, okay, I'll go up in the wind, I'm going to drop here, next one going this way. Okay, what the hell? It doesn't look right, but that's because the current's stronger than the wind or whatever it may be. So, and generally it takes 2 drifts or sometimes 3 to actually nail it right. And then the wind becomes variable and goes the other way and stuff shuts again. So, yeah, it's just practice. It's practice. Yeah. But it's really important to focus on that. And it's really important now that we're on this area here to understand how to run your jig. So, how many people here jig really fast? Has everyone got their action right? So, it's a bit of a crazy jig way, isn't it, Jack? Jack plays around with his different, I watch him all the time, he has different jig techniques, and you sort of work it until you find which is the way, whether it be like that way, or whether you do scissor action, or whether you just go hard, you just keep going hard, whatever it might be, and you actually not even get it time to fall, you actually just keep bring up. You need to find out on the day which way they're going to hit it. And some days it can be, I've watched about my mates, my David, Skinny Dave, he's a really good jigger from years ago, we used to jig a lot together. And he does, sometimes just do a big long lift and let it fall down, and just like an old slow pitch style jigging, I guess to say in the old days. And he gets slammed. I look at him going, oh, okay. So I do the same thing. I did a trip once over to Canada and we caught catching halibut on jigs in 300 foot of water. And I'm doing that because we thought we were doing jigging. We're on a boat, it's a 50-foot boat with about 20 other punters, and we had 10-foot long rods and little TR200G Shimano overhead little level wind things, a 20-pound line, well, not braid. There wasn't much braid around those days. That's about the year 2000. And anyhow, everyone's just going like that, exactly that same technique, and hooking up, and we're going, listen, I'm getting nothing. We're like tired. We're going, what the hell? So the old mate, the decky, comes up and he goes, guys, what are you doing? We're jigging. He goes, you're not jigging. We don't jig like that. You do this. And then sort of whack, we're on, and it depends on the technique on the day. Simple as that, you need to work it out. But generally speaking, you have the rod tucked under your arm like so. You will get a bit of a red mark on your here. I suggest wearing something that's don't wear bare clothes, no clothes, because you rip all the skin off. Wear a jumper or something, but something that probably doesn't cause static electricity, maybe as well. Well, this is rubber, and just get that technique right and have your hand ready to hook onto that fish. If you're not prepared, people do lose the rods out of their hand. We replace rods a lot of the time for that technique, and people just hold on or not hold it right in their hand. Is there a proper way to hold it? It's whatever feels best for you and comfortable for you. With the reels these days is a new Stratic. These are beautiful, these things. I'd suggest you get a reel that has no back play at all if you're using spin. You can't do that clunk, 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 clunk like the old pen spin fishes and that. Just doesn't work, guys. And I don't think the fish don't like it either. Overheads, same technique. You just get under your arm and you jig whichever way is the right way on the day, but you need to be able to hold it. I prefer to hold the hand like that on the reel. Most of the better reels these days are actually tapered, so that side's actually lower than that side for that purpose to hold it. Okay, and under the arms, whichever way you want it. It's up to you guys. You will see guys that look like they're having a epileptic fit, but they catch fish. Seems to work, and like Jack I see sometimes. But it works really well. Do you have any advice on technique, Jack?
I don't know, just get
pretty much get the flow, like
Get the
lift
rhythm.
the rod up, yeah, get the rhythm, yeah, lift the rod up, you get a turn, but like after you do it a fair bit, you'll get the flow. And like Doug said, it just feels like it's going up. So it's just like one, about. Like you get a rhythm after a
Like
while.
one turn of the reel.
To one lift,
you
yeah.
go on
As
one
you go
turn,
down, you turn the
yeah,
reel.
pretty much. But like,
Yeah,
you
but
know when to do it, yeah.
Mm.
It's
It-
easy.
yeah, in a faster action than what you would in a slow pitch, so to speak, Greg said, is actually not getting much time to fall. It just keeps going up and up, like I said before. That seems to be a really good technique. Yeah, but my mate Dave, he does the lift, and sometimes he does what he calls a scissor. Actually, does like that, and the jig must go like that, I guess, up. But it works very effective. Very effective. Any questions on that at all? You guys got to practice?
When you're sounding for bait,
Yes.
how long do you sound for?
Yeah, good question. So the marks I'm giving you, which I'll run through last, I would definitely not drop a jig down unless I saw either fish, like a good sized fish, not little dots, but reasonable fish on the sounder, or a cluster of bait with fish on it.
I struggle to find fish at 50s. At that.
Okay,
Should
so
they come up, should they be as prominent on your sounder as in place?
100%.
Yeah?
Yeah. So a lot of sounders, it depends how old the sounder is, but you may need to switch it to low frequency to get it to work better, or 83 hertz instead of whatever, 200. Yep. And I'd probably push the gain up a bit. You will get a bit of shit on the sounder, but you'll be able to decide the difference. You know?
It shows up more, doesn't it?
100%, mate. Yeah. Yeah, when you get low frequency. And zoom's important. Zoom. Yeah, because it'll
Well, you're
just
not actually
enhance it.
zooming, you don't have to do just looking at the bottom 20 metres.
Oh no, it's zooming up as
Oh, you
much.
actually zoom?
Yeah, so
Not the-
that portion there becomes that portion there. Does that make sense? Yeah, so bottom lock, I don't like the one, how many people like it where it's flat and you just get the stuff above it? You like that style?
Don't like it, but.
Yeah, I don't like that style. A lot of pros do, but I can't get myself to understand. I like to see a pinnacle because I know what I'm about to come up to, you know?
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
How long how quick should you be able to sound, like go, and then before you get the cavitation and stuff?
It's really important. Every boat's different.
Yeah.
My old Haynes, before I changed sounders, I had a Furuno on there, but an older school Furuno colour one. And it would be about 5 knots, and it was just horrid. And I had to like slow right down to idle, but the pitch was beautiful. And I just had to put more time into slow driving.
Yeah.
Yep. So get closer to the spot rather than a bit away from it. And look. So you do have surface clutter, and these days sounds have so much stuff on it, you can eliminate most of it. Interference from radios, whatever it might be, there's all different features you can use. It's definitely worth those days too when you got a few fish to sit down and play with your sounder too. We do that as well. Try and work it out a bit better for next time. Yeah. But yeah, zoom in. So Greg, you were saying before, if you have it on Zoom, like just bottom track, used to be called bottom track, I think it's bottom lock maybe these days. But you can quarter zoom, 1/6, 1/8 zoom, or you can push your upper and lower limit as well on a lot of sounders.
Seminars, yeah, that's what I thought
Yeah.
you've always
Yeah, upper
said,
and lower
it's just
limit.
use the upper and lower.
Yeah, you can do that, it's
rather
fine.
than zoom.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so just look between 60 and 80 metres.
Yeah.
But when you're jigging out in that deeper water, in say 80 metres or 85 metres, I'll get hits up to about here. I'll jig right up to about halfway up the water column. And it's funny, right at the end, and half you guys who jig will know that you'll jig, and you know you're halfway up. So then you start winding fast just to get it up for the next drop again. And next one, whack, and you're up here somewhere, you know. They're right up. It's just there, and they come right up. Yeah, probably for them it's the last chance they got. So you think the fish is fleeing, so they hit it hard. Yeah.
Will they always be sitting on bait? I've seen fish which, I don't know what it is, but they haven't catch them,
Yep.
sitting at about 50,
Yep.
away from bait.
Yep.
But clearly there's something there, but they're not taking anything like it.
Okay, so when you're searching for the fish, two things. One is if that's not there and you just see that, they will be kingies. They sit like that sometimes with no bait, and I definitely jig that. Other times, if you see say that, and you'll see maybe that, especially out there, the chances are you'll jig through that, you might get a king. If you don't get anything, and you see this, you think, oh, what's that? Next minute, a massive bonito jumps on you. It's a big bonito or something like that. It's in the water column a bit higher up. So some guys jig right to the top. I don't, because I'm going to stop here because I don't really want to catch the bonito. Well, they're good eating. Do you want to eat bonito? Yeah, they're really good actually. Yeah. Very white flesh out of all the tunas.
Really?
Yeah, good bait too, but good to eat. So yeah, don't. If you see that, mate, if you want to catch bonito, then keep going through it because they'll just jump on it.
Yeah, I find that the bonito and the tuna tend not to show up very well on the sonar because they move. They're often
Yeah, they move around. Yeah, so the broader the fish, the more easy it is to see on the sonar, I think, and that's why fish are designed really flat and like that, because for a predator fish looking up, it's very hard for them to see in the sun. But it's very hard for you to see in the sample too. But if the fish is a bit broader, it becomes more visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why big fish are always easy to see.
I often get the bonito, but like, I'm almost like, where were they?
Yeah, yeah, that's what you see. Now, sometimes you can do a blind jig and just drop it down and jig it, and particularly for snapper and that, they seem to be hiding somewhere down there, you can't see them, but they jump on. But with Kingfish and Amberjacks, they are generally like that. They're schooled up, or they're on the bait like that.
And they're not like very quickly moving. They're just like kind of hovering, whereas like
And they stay around the bait.
You'll see like
Yeah.
backies, you'll see lines. Like generally, like oh, that's
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's mackerel, just a straight line. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, they're generally like little arches or just little dots. Yeah, big dots. Yeah.
Do you find that there's more fishing, like you've got a better chance of catching fish in deeper water, or?
For this species, 100% yes. That's their home. Their home's out there.
So it's
No,
deeper the better?
The deeper the better, and the better eating they are too. I will say now, just sorry guys, but John's got a good question about the depth. For those of you who can't get out to the 50 fathom reef, I'm a bit worried about it. The back side of the 50s, which is the same area we catch the pearlies, will also hold big kingfish, particularly 36s northeast and east. So now we're in 0 to say 70 metres, and that's obviously 35 metres there, and such and such, such and such. So, and the pinnacles, everything's identical, it's just a shallower scenario. So it's the same, everything you do, it's just easier to jig because it's shallower.
Yeah.
And easy to get down, and easy to, you don't have to back up all the time as much. The more shallow it is, the less backing up you do. And you can fish a lot of jigs, so it's easy for you too.
Do you sound up and down or across?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always sound into the wind. Into the wind or current, whichever way that my drift shows I'm going to go, I'll do cross references that way, because that's the way I'm going to drift back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I go that way and find something really nice, I then have to maybe then turn that way along it and try and find out which way I'm going to drift, what's there in that same drift area. And that's why I always say to you guys, it's confusing, but change the colour maybe every month, whatever, but always leave your track on, because you know which way your track's going to go on that wind or that drift for next time.
Not from last time, mate.
Yeah, no, I have mine on for the last 2 years, I think. I don't know. It's just like a
Squiggle.
yeah, it's like Mr. Squiggle's gone crazy.
Why do you do
He's
that?
been drunk.
Why do you do that?
It's really easy for you to know. If you just do a blind drift, okay, I've drifted that way. I look up all my lines. Okay, I'm going to start there, and that's my end. And that's where I go every time I go there.
Oh, so you know
Where to stop and where to start, and you know where I've got the most hookup rates.
Turn it off when you do your drift, and then turn it off, go back up,
Yeah, so
flick it back on again, and then
yeah, so
find that, because otherwise you end up with just
a million different miles on there, and actually that's not a bad call. I fished with a guy named Paul Jenkins many years ago, just on snapper, but some similar scenario, and would never have the sounder on when he's drifting because he believes it pinging the fish off. So yeah, we caught a lot of fish too. So maybe you do get more fish with your sounder off while you're drifting. So you can't just actually turn the sounder off. You got to turn the whole thing off. So you need to then go to Navionics or something on your phone to make it work, you know, or have a separate. You know, even 2 screens will still ping the bottom. So you've got to go to like an avionics or something on your phone or on an iPad or something to be in total stealth mode.
Actually disconnect the sound on your second screen if you got to.
Oh, you could do that perhaps, yeah, just not have the depth. That's good. Will that still power up?
Yeah.
Will it still power up? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still use the maps.
There you go. But most of us don't have two screens. Yeah. But anyhow, pinging does, you're right, it will give less track space and probably more chance of catching fish, particularly if you're chasing snapper and pearls and stuff. But I never worry, we still catch lots of fish. I know it's up to you guys.
Sorry, how long do you see out for before moving on to the next maybe week?
I have marks, the marks I've given you guys. If you look around those areas, when you get to those areas, you'll see that the bait should be there, the fish should be there. And if I have marks that I know that don't hold much fish, or I just don't go to them.
Yeah.
Not for that species anyhow.
You can literally drift from one reef to the next.
Yeah, you can. So, I'll quickly go through those marks now. Real sorry, just might as well do that while we're here. So most of these have a north and south end and a start, mate, or in the area. Some are a long drift too, by the way, because when you're jigging, it's a great thing to go a long way and find you'll catch stuff again and again and again. So I'm not going to do the explaining of where Latin longs are today, but 28.0 is about off Q1, okay? The first one's up here. And 153.46 and 153.45, actually they're the wrong way around. The first one on the top left is actually the bottom of the drift, and the second one is the top of the drift. When you put this in your GPS, you'll see where they are, okay? Simple as that. The third one, guys, on the top row is probably the honey hole for the Gold Coast for jigging. That's what they call, we used to call it family, it's now called death wall or wall of death or whatever it's called, but it used to be called, I call it family before wall of death is even thought of. But anyhow, back in the 80s, or 90s, early 90s. But that's where, on the east side of it, it's quite a slow taper, okay? And on the west side of it, it comes from about 86, 87, straight up to about 81 or something, 82, 80. And that wall runs for about probably 400 to 500 metres long. And it sort of goes down a bit in certain areas, but it's a pretty well vertical side wall like that on the west side of it, and the east side of it's like that. And it's very good fishing. If you can start on the west side of it and come up the wall, sometimes you get fish on that edge, they'll be patrolling on there, but generally they stack up on the top of it. 2744, that's just a little bit south of it, but it's actually still part of it. As I said, the wall's quite long. So it's like the 2743 is about half a mile or a bit over at the top end, north of the fourth mark, but nearly on the same longitude. 2742, that's up a little bit further up again. It's actually, as I said, it sort of undulates a little bit, the wall, and then it comes up again, and that's the top end of it. That's where Brody hangs out, that area. 2815, okay, this is getting down into, this is where I lost 6 jigs in a row. So 2815, 2812 actually, the third row down, 2812, that's deep southern, and 2815 is right down the bottom end of it. It's a very pinnacly rough area with heaps of big fish. It's a buzz fishing there, which is hard to get up when you're jigging.
What was that?
The sixth spot, the second row, the last one, Greg.
Yeah, okay.
2815 and 2812. It's the wrong way around, sorry, but 2812 is actually the top end of it, and that's like 3 miles south all the way down to 2815. 3 nautical miles, about 5 k's. It's pinnacly all the way, nearly. There's a lot of reef down there, mate. Really good bottom fishing too for snapper and stuff like that. Yeah, that's correct, yeah. So, just to give you some idea too, guys, it's actually just as close to go down there as to go up to the 50s northeast, about 42k run, or 40k run. But you need a New South Wales fishing licence to fish down there. And at the moment, you probably get done by the commandos. So, up to you if you're going to take the risk. Maybe we should put it on there now, guys.
That's not like the old fish traps, is it?
The fish trap's on about 28. Sorry. The fish trap's on about they're about 28.05.
Okay.
I didn't put that mark on you, but there are fish traps down there though at times. Yeah. It's down. It's sort of just a little bit south of Tweed. But down, it's funny in Queensland. Like they don't get pulled up by the fisheries last Sunday out there at all. Out in the 50s northeast, they were out there last Sunday. Anyone out in the 50s last Sunday? Yeah. Okay, they were in the big rubber boat. But they're from Cleveland, so Brisbane guys. So I had a few of my customers got pulled up. Okay, and quite strange to see them out there because you're 40 k's from nowhere. But they got checked and everything. But the ones down in northern New South Wales, they're like commandos. They're like dressed in black camo gear and they're black outfit with like 300s on the back, and like got assault rifles nearly. So it's quite different, and they just jump on the boat. So I don't know what the deal is, but it's very different. But I've had a few guys get pulled up there. I haven't been yet, and I've fished a lot down there. But the guys that have all said similar scenario. They just come out, you flat chat, and they just jump on the boat. They must think you're doing drugs, like drug deals or something, from Byron Bay or something. But yeah, quite different. But getting back to what we're talking about, so it is on there, mate. 2805 is on there. So 2807 and 2805 are really popular areas for traps. But this area here, for the guys who got a bit smaller boat, it's just outside the 36s. It's, we call a 42 fathom reef, and it's down off about Burleigh Heads. So it's about a 30k run from the seaways, not as far as the 50s, and probably accessible on a good day in the smaller boat. In 2807 and 2805, which is the third row down, 7th and 8th spot. So that there should be a 0 before the 7. I don't know why this Navionics do it this way, but they don't have a 0. So it should be 2807 and 2805. There's no 0 there. Okay. Okay. The next whole next 5 spots, they all end like on the east, on the latitude mark. Longitude mark. 153.39. 153.37s, they're on 36s, okay? So if it's a bit shitty in the weather, or you just want to try something different, or you want to snapper fishing at 36s and you've got a fish snapping, you want to switch to doing a bit of jigging, that's all on the outside edge of the 36s. So that's the 4th row down, the whole 3, and the 5th row down, the next 2. And the last one is one of my favourite spots as well. That's 2801,978. So that's on the 50s directly straight out. It's about 38 k's out. It's actually probably the closest area for the 36s 50 fathom reef off the Gold Coast, because it's, even though it's south of Seaway, because you all know the latitudes here don't run like that straight out. They actually run like that. So if you go from the Seaway on the same angle as Seaway, it's in that direction sort of thing. Anyhow. There's areas just above that and there's areas just below that, but that's the main area. That's the areas where we go and sometimes catch, even now we'll catch like 20 or 30 or 40 kingies in sort of September to about October, November. So the fish, for those of you who don't know, you will get a lot of fish on the northeast 50s the last 2 months or 3 months, but they taper off a bit soon and they seem to rock up down there. But they're not as big, but the volumes are much more. So much easier to catch. And they're sort of around that 3 to 8 kilo size with the odd big one. We're up there at the moment, they're 15, 20 kilo.
What is the fishing season for?
When the current's not running. They're there all the time, mate. But predominantly July to about October. Yep.
So July, August, you're fishing more of the northern grounds, and then you sort of...
Yeah, and move south late September, October and November. And even the current's ripping. I've got videos of Jack when he's about 10-year-old jigging out there, and we just had a blinder of a time. Yeah. Oh no, that was with Ding.
Oh, I know.
Mr. Lee's boat. Yeah. but that was in November. We always go to November. Once that current rips in late November, it runs at 2.83 knots. You just can't jig, it's just too hard. So we try and get one last trip in every year in November sometime before we start trolling for dolphin fish. Yeah. So put those in your thing. For those of you, I'm going to keep saying again, if you haven't got Navionics on your phone, put it on, $36 or something. Best value ever. And you can put it onto your iPad. You can get those iPad mounts that go onto your dash, and your iPad sits sideways, and it's just like a big sounder. And for $36, it's such good value. And for the gentleman in the back, as we said, turn the sounder off, mate, and just watch the track, you know. As long as you got a cigarette lighter charger, it'll chew your battery up pretty quick. Okay, I used to always recommend using Coastwatch, because we know Coastwatch, Ken Brown's retired now. I like Coastwatch for my weather and swell and knowing what's going on before I go fishing every time I go out for information, but it's closed down. I think somebody's bought it, but I don't know who it was, but it's not up and running yet. So I'm a bit confused, like you guys probably are before I told you about that. So at the moment I'm just going to bomb latest observations. That'll give you the seaway there, and you can see what's been happening every hour or half hour on the wind. You can, at the same time, it's got all the different places. So you can look at Cape Morton, you look at Byron, you can see what the wind's doing. And then I go to Wave Rider Boys, Queensland, and click on Seaway, or I'll click on outside of Tweed. Out of the Tweed's got two buoys, one out wide, one in close. The one out wide's about 36 fathoms. That'll give you some idea what the swell's doing out wider. As I said, we're in this big bay from one look out to Tweed, and outside of there, the swell can pick up 3 times. You can go from 1 metre to 3 metres.
Windy will give you the component.
It does. Windy gives you a component, so you can look at this, the wind direction and the swell. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, windy is probably the most accurate one. But you know, I did a thing. It's on my phone. It's on there. You can see. But I did a thing. Last Tuesday. Last Tuesday, if you remember, it was howling northwest. It was a howling wind, and I checked. It was blowing 27 knots at Cape Morton. I actually took all the photo screenshots, and it was. I checked on I think it's Willy Weather, some other weather, and it said Gold Coast Seaway current weather 8 knots, but my back of my house is now blown off. Shit, stuff's blown everywhere, you know. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I checked on another one. It said current weather 14 knots, but it's just I just see how bad are these guys, you know. If you're out in a boat, sea breeze is not too bad, but sea breeze, yeah, theoretically, I wouldn't say it's the best. Theoretically, it's supposed to be on 150. 154.0000, which is out at Jim's Mountain, 50 k's offshore. That's the position it says it gets its reading from. I don't know how it gets that, because out there is a lot more than in here, but it never shows that. So I don't believe it's the best, but sometimes it is. It shows you nice pictures and everything, and good descriptions, but I think definitely bombs the best to get your best reading.
10, 15 nor'easterly, standard weekend.
Yeah, standard weekend, yeah, so, yeah, that's right. And then tomorrow it changes to 15 to 20 actually on Friday nights. But the weather this weekend, guys, it looks like Saturday's, who's going tomorrow, by the way? Thinking about it? Yeah. The weather was actually better this morning than tomorrow, unfortunately. And tomorrow is still not too bad though, it's 10 to 15 sort of most of the day. Bit of northwest, I don't know if I go wide though. And then Saturday morning's similar, like 15 knots, maybe even 20. But then Saturday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, it just drops out. So it's a good night to go jewie fishing maybe, or sample fishing Saturday afternoon, if the swell's not too big. The swell's reasonable today. It was actually breaking when we went out this morning on the north bank on Deadman's. They had big sets too. And then it was about 1.5 meters, I guess, so a bit more. And then it drops out on Saturday to about 1 metre, 1.1. On Sunday morning's the go-to, guys, at this stage, but it could change. The Sunday morning till about midday is 8 knots. And the swell's, I think if you look on what you're saying, a windy one, mate, it's about 0.9 to 1.1, I think. It's pretty good, yeah.
I think it's a wider set too.
That's right, 12 seconds I think it is. So it's pretty good. So if you get a chance, go Sunday morning. Yeah. Okay, any questions on that at all? No? Okay, cool. Not yet, no. It's got a bit more to go. Nearly there. I don't want to go too. Sorry.
Question,
Yep.
bite times similar to?
Yeah, okay, so for those of you who fished last Saturday, Sunday, was a late bite time. It was around about, a lot of guys come back in at 9 o'clock, but the bite time's about 10 o'clock. Did you find that at all, who went out on the
I
weekend?
didn't get a bite time.
Okay, did you say it
I
till...
got nothing. Couldn't find nothing. Couldn't see nothing on the sounder.
Craig, if you knew how many guys I spoke to that went out the weekend before when the closure on and they just couldn't go from the snapper like everywhere. And then they went the day when it opened back up. The Monday was the bad weather. Zilch. So I don't know if they were poking tongues at us or what, but it wasn't good. But last weekend, a lot of guys come back too early, but it was a mid-morning to lunchtime boat. And that was definitely coincides with the sort of, was about 8 o'clock high or something like that, or 9 o'clock high.
Something like that.
Yeah, and the bite time was like 10 o'clock.
At 8, so
Yeah.
it was about 9:30, 10.
That's right, yeah.
2 hour bite time.
And at the moment it's high tide about, I think, yesterday my mates went snap fishing yesterday afternoon at about 3 because that was the bite time, because it's high tide about 12 and 2:33 they come on the bite and they did, and they got some really big snapper, like 94 centimetres, 10, 11 kilo. But by Sunday it comes around, like there's 3 to 4 yesterday, 4 to 5 today, 5 to 6 tomorrow. Saturday or Sunday should be around about a 6 o'clock morning bite to about 8 o'clock. So Sunday morning's good. Yeah.
I think it was a late high tide on the weekend.
It's low. It's
It's an early afternoon low.
early afternoon low, is it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which is a morning high, right? I think that's right. So today was low tide when we went out. We went out real late. It's about 6. And it's still just running out. So by Sunday, 4 days later, it should be at 10. Low tide. So high tide would be about 4:30. So the bite time would be at 6. It should be 6 to 7, Greg.
So are you saying about 2 hours after high tide?
100% all the time.
High tide Saturday at the Seaway is 11:48.
What about low tide?
No, it's not right. It's not right, mate. No. Well, it's still running out this morning at 6, and on the beacons it was still going out on the green. Always check the beacons as I go. That's a good thing too. When you're going down the Seaway, always check the beacons, guys. You know what the tide's doing. If you lap, getting close to where it is, getting close to the bottom of the tide or the high tide, or the high tide, whatever it may be, you got some idea what the Seaway's going to be before you get there. Does that make sense? So always look at the beacons and see if the tide's still ripping. So there might be a bit of pressure waves. There's a bit of swell on. Or the tide's flat. I know it's not going to be too bad. So it's a little bit of an indication. Yeah. Greg, I'll come back to you on that one, but it was definitely running out this morning at 5 to 6 where it was. Yeah.
You're saying low
And actually
tide at
Stewie
5:39.
Stewie went flathead fishing, he set the pin, and he said high tide's about 11:30 up there, 12 o'clock. Up the pin.
11:30.
Brisbane's,
Yeah, 11:48. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah,
yeah.
11:48 a.m. high tide.
yeah, I don't think, is that on the Gold Coast one?
Yeah, that's Gold
Seaway.
Coast Seaway.
Yeah.
I've got as well.
Yeah, I reckon it's out about 2 hours. Or 3 maybe. Sorry, right?
You reckon it's earlier than that?
Oh, this is on Sunday you're talking?
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday would probably
Sunday,
be,
yeah.
Sunday, low tide's at 6. 6:15.
okay, well, it's low tide this morning at after 6. I was running out in the Seaway. So,
4:30 start on low tide.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was about this morning. We went out 6. Yeah. The afternoon tide is always earlier than the morning tide. Is that correct? I think it is right by about half an hour. But which means it would have been low at 5, but it was still running out at 6. I guarantee you that. Oops, because when we went through the Seaway, you get the little pressure waves. It's the last of them, you know, as we went out. Strange. It's really weird. I believe it's been out for about 2 hours all year. Yeah. The tide time, but check it out. Have a look.
Is it worth fishing the low tide?
It doesn't. Yeah, you do get tide bites out there. You also get morning, afternoon bites, but it's generally based on the moon or 2 hours after. But yeah, low tide, and the first to run in's a good tide. 100%.
So you find the high tide a couple of hours after the high tide is your...
My peak time, but no matter what time of day it is. And if you look at the fish alamac, it's always based on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the moment it is I think it's actually a bad bite period, right? If you look at your alamac, I think, like the little clear fish and not the black fish, which is Sundays. It gets better. Okay, any questions so far, all guys? But Greg, I'll come back to you on that tide, mate. That's pretty unusual. I've done that. Just the jigs, yeah. So, with the jigs, guys, just one last thing is that most of them come with the cyst hooks that are okay. That they are a lot better than this to come with years ago. Years ago, it was just a bit of black rubber. They were stiff. They didn't flop around. They're just stiff as, and we still got lots of fish on them. So, I do believe that the more loose it is and the more thinner the braid, the more the attachment material, the better the hookup rate is. But a lot of the higher class jigs don't come with hooks. That's because people make their own or whatever it might be in that category. But I would just probably leave maybe the one hook that's on there and maybe put 2 more on or put another single on. So you got 2 at the top. Or you take it off and put your own hooks on, or buy the hooks and put them on. You can go overboard on, like these are BKK, they're like really dressed really nice. They will work really nice. It's Lumo Blue too, which I believe is the best colour in anything. But you don't need to go to that category, it's up to you guys. But at the end of the day, you spend a lot of money on fuel getting out there, you've got to do it sort of half right? No good having blunt hooks. When you buy rings, just a quick little bit of advice. When you buy split rings, buy flat-sided ones. They tend to be a lot stronger than the round-sided ones. The triple ones, which like Helco and that do, they're a great ring, but they're very hard to put on, and they don't give you much movement because they're just too fat. Okay, unless you got fish that are thick like in WA, that's fine. But around here, I suggest not to use it. Any questions on this at all, guys? Okay. If you're going to fish down, I didn't talk about the 9 mile. Has anyone been down the 9 mile reef at all? Has anyone jigged the 9 mile reef? It's very good. How'd you go, Chris, to get some? Kings down there? You get them on the southeast corner, mate. Yeah. And stick it about 80 foot heading northwest from the southeast corner. Sorry, mate? Oh, okay. You run over your line? No. Oh, okay. Oh, did you get all the fish, mate? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 50-50. It's a good spot down there, guys. And normally you can take your boat down the Tweed as just go through the Tweed Bar on a good day, and it's just there. It's like 10 minutes again, 15 minutes you're there. And it's a pretty wild place. So anything over 2 metres, it can send up nearly crack the waves and a break on it. It's about 8 or so metres deep on the shallowest end of it. You get a lot of tidal pull on it, and that pushes the wave up a bit. But sometimes there's no current there. The king, it drops from about 8 or 9 metres down to about 40 metres straight away. It's like a 30 metre drop, and it's on the south side of it. And normally the fish do sit into the current. That's the way the fish feed. But for that spot, they seem to sit on the edge or on the back edge of it. I think you get fish at the top end too, but not kingy so much. So yeah, so fish the back edge. I haven't got the mark here for you, but if you want it, just let me know. But just roughly speaking, that's the Tweed Bar. That Cook Island sort of here, 9 Mile sort of out here somewhere. It's sort of shaped, that sort of shape there, like that. And this is the drop off along here. And that is the shallowest area of the reef. It gets a little bit shallow in the middle here too, but that's the shallow area. And most of the fish I find jigging are along here, and we get them along this edge here too. But particularly just this area is quite ripply there. But mac tuna drive you crazy on anything there. They're big mac tunas, they're like huge, 10 kilo or bigger. but that's a really good spot, and it's not far from the bar to there. But you need a New South Wales licence. Okay.
Good permit to get across there.
Sorry, mate.
Good permit to get across there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know.
Get it
Jeez.
right, so you get-
We'll get back to those Black Commandos. But yeah, not at the moment, but just telling you about it for future reference. I didn't tell you to go there. I think you're smuggling people now. That's probably about all you need to know. You just got to get there and do it, and make sure your gears suffice. Okay, check your braid. Another thing too is make sure your braid's fairly full on the reels when you're jigging. Really important too, because it needs to get out as quick as it can off the spool if you're using spin. Otherwise, it's just too hard to climb over the lip, and it's too hard to get down there, and it just gets going out and out and out with the current. With overheads, set it right so it's running out as free as you can get it to go free. I even hold my rod up like that when it's dropping down, especially my spin ones. So I'll just hold like this. I'll drop it down and I'll just hold like that and let it fall and fall and fall and fall. It just goes down much quicker rather than coming off like that. Lots of little tricks which you'll learn. Okay, any questions? Okay, go and do it. Get out there and press on, hopefully. Okay, so the other thing too, guys, is snapper. A lot of big snapper at the moment. I'm going to tell you about this. This week, I don't know how many, you'll see on the fishing report, but how many guys caught snapper over 90 centimetres this week? It's ridiculous. Like 10, 11 kilo jobs. And up till, I guess, the afternoon. About today, I haven't heard much today. We lost a big one this morning, but you can get to see it though. Yeah, so lots of snapper. They're on the 24s, it's a little bit the 18s, definitely the 36s, and definitely north of the Seaway's been really good. Rossi McCubbin, he turned 60 today. He was out from Lucky Strike Charters. He was out east today, that's what he said he was. And he got one about 90 as well, out in the 36s out there too. Predominantly float line, or soft plastic's been really good. And micro jigs, yeah, try them. The Canis jigs, the whole lot. Okay, first prize tonight. It's about 300 something bucks worth. It is in here. Jigs, a jig wrap, some braid, and bits of pieces. Jack's got the board there, so he'll call out your name. Thanks everyone for coming along. And for those of you on there that couldn't make it, I'm sorry. We can't believe how quick this one went. I think a few hours ago we sold out. I'm sorry. Who wrote it? Mum. You better go ask Mum. She's it. Sorry, it's either 9 or 6, so one of you two are going to get it. I can't tell you which one yet. I don't ask Mum how she writes it now. Just get a draw one. You can see it. You have to ask her. Sorry about this. There's a bit of a discrepancy here. Yeah. So do you guys, I don't know if you know about our YouTube page, but if you want to learn stuff, this will be on there. You can watch it anytime you want. And there's other stuff we put on there. We did a trip recently, if you've seen it the other day, we did a trip up the reef recently, a few months ago, and did really well. So didn't go up to the reef at all, like 1770 or up to Airlie Beach. Yeah, it's always a great place to go to. Last year, a few months ago, we took up my mate's boat up to a 6 metre boat, took up to Airlie Beach. We had one mark a mate gave me. We've got a couple of fish there, but not much. But we just use that instinct that we use here and look for grounds and found grounds. A long way out though, and just absolutely smashed the big Nana guys first time. There was no other boats around us, no one, maybe in a green zone, don't think so. No, just joking. But no, we weren't in a green zone. But we absolutely smashed the fish. I think we got like, seriously, I don't know, I think the bag limit on Nana guys 9 per person, and we had, and there was 5 of us on the boat, so we had quite a few. Filled a 300 litre esky, plus another 100, in about 3 hours in the middle of the day. 6 is, I thought it was a 6. Is that you, mate? Yep. Well done. So for number 9, I'm sorry. Well done, mate. It didn't have the little straight for the 9.
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah.
Oh, there you go. It's got a line underneath it now, so next time. Next one's about $200 worth. You get the braids tonight. You're welcome to bring your reels in. We'll put it on for you. So who's it on? Courtney. Well done, buddy. Courtney's a very good customer, and he's good on you, buddy. And he gets a few good fish too, by the way. And he fished out of a little boat, and he does well. So, Courtney, any advice on going wide in a, how big's your 4.5?
4.5.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, you just gotta pick the day.
Yeah.
You gotta look at the weather, and then even while you're heading out, like, just make calls as you get to certain points out there, see what the wind's doing, like, and then, yeah, because you can't really trust the reports a lot of the time. Like, sometimes you get, like, it says, oh, it's gonna be amazing, and you get halfway out, and you're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke to you went out today, same scenario, mate. Eh? Yeah. Yeah. You
But
got
like, yeah, like, I did a couple of days. I did that run a couple of days last week. Yeah, one day we caught fish, one day we caught.
Yeah.
Luckily, last week both days there was 6 minutes. The weather was kind of what it said.
Pretty good, yeah. Yeah. And you got kings as well?
No kings.
Amberjack? Amberjacks, yeah. So, Amberjack and kings are both really good sashimi guys, as well as cooked, of course. Who doesn't eat sashimi? I should put my hands up. You don't, mate? No. Haven't tried it? Okay. Yeah. It's so nice. So especially fresh and slice it very thin and wasabi and soy.
Better cook me some.
Yeah, chili. Yeah.
Or not cook me some, isn't it?
Yeah. Very, very nice. Especially the amberjack. I like amberjack more than kingies actually. So in Japan it's called kenpachi. Okay, number 3, another low number. 3.
David.
Well done, Dave. Where's yours, mate?
Sorry, buddy.
I think it's about 150 bucks worth. Well done, mate. Congratulations. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Okay, next one, Jack.
Number 4, Darren.
Jeez.
Yeah, it pays to get in early, guys. Good night, Darren. Cheers, mate. Number 5. Just don't pull out number 5, Jack. Conspiracy. You got 5 out of the first 6 would be weird. 10. Oh,
Adam.
get a bit better. Go on, Adam. That's yours, mate. Congratulations, buddy. Thank you, sir. So it's about $800 worth of stuff tonight, guys.
A bit over.
And the last one's only about $40 worth of it. Everyone, thanks for coming along. Our next seminar next week's on flathead fishing. I thought it was number 9. It's 19. And the 9 is the right way. Go on, Bruce. So guys, thanks for coming along. If you want to grab a bit of that, thanks mate. If you want to grab a bit of this braid, Jack's got something. Actually, before you go, do you mind if we just pass this out to you? Just pass it along, grab a piece off the strands. What do you got there, Jack? Pass it around. Yeah. If you're going to take that down the back. Just to practice tying their things on. It's just a bit of heavy braid because most of you probably don't have a 100-pound braid. So guys, all the jigs and stuff, we do the normal stuff, 30% off for till the next seminar. And reels online and rods 30% off. Thank you so much and good luck out there on the weekend. It's a long weekend, so enjoy it. The weather's half reasonable. And plenty of squid out the broadwater, guys. Let you know that too when you go squidding. If the weather goes south. Oh, sorry. I didn't tell you how to use this. Okay. You all want to know the secret to using this without getting tired. Okay, this was designed, this big bad boy was designed to be jigged. And it's got 3 assist points along it. One on the back, one in the middle, one on the side. We're running about 9 O's on it. Like that sort of big size there. So running 3 lots of double assist. And the secret to jigging this is to use an electric reel. Okay? That's the secret. So if you have an electric reel, every electric reel, most of them have jig functions on it. I've got a Chinese mate of mine I fish with, and when we go jigging, I work my ass off to Jack, and he jigs with his electric reel, and he smashes us. The electric, he sets it, it's like that, and pushes the button, up it comes. But that fella there's designed for using out in about 400 to 500 metres. So it becomes a sinker, it's on the bottom, and it has the hooks on it, and you can actually just have it sitting there. One of my mates did get a big, the blue eye cod on one. It's about 30 kilos or 20 kilos without jigging it. Actually, just caught it just flashing. But generally, you have to jig it up through the column. But it takes a fair bit in time to jig up 400 metres, so you don't drop it down all the time. Yeah, but anyhow, that's how you jig it. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you.
I need to fix you up for that, don't
Yeah, you do, my friend. Yes. Thank you, guys. Hey, welcome. Thanks, mate. Good. Well done. Thank you.
Is that the box truck?
That is the box truck, mate. Have a look whenever you want there, guys, too. I'll meet you downstairs in a moment. Thank you. Yeah, so it's 399 the combo, mate. Scored up with the blind one.
What's on that?
It's an 80-pound braid and it's 300 metres, yeah. I'll start it up with it. And